Oh my God, the ducks. Oh my God, the ducks. What did I do? Oh my goodness, the ducks. That was crazy. Staten Island, baby. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the financial district here in Manhattan in New York City. Today, I'm going to be giving you guys an everything you need to know guide about the awesome borough of Staten Island here in New York City. This is going to be everything you need to know. Before we start this, because I'm about to board the Staten Island ferry, which is free, I want to make sure that you guys subscribe and turn on those notifications and don't miss a single video because I'm covering literally every square inch of the city, giving you everything you need to know about all 5 boroughs, all the awesome neighborhoods. So just subscribe and make sure you're watching those other videos. And before we do anything else, let's roll the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here in Staten Island, one of the forgotten boroughs of New York City. Like I mentioned to you guys earlier today in the morning, I was boarding the Staten Island ferry and I sailed all the way over here to Staten Island, and that was like early in the morning. It's later in the day now. I've actually spent the whole day here exploring, and I'm going to relay to you guys the everything you need to know guide about Staten Island. I have to say that before we begin, this borough is like the more unknown borough. Not a lot of people go to it. A lot of people don't even consider it part of the city, especially tourists that come here. They don't really give it the time of day, but there's a lot of cool stuff to see and do here, so you shouldn't check it off your list. You should come here. Make sure that you do have some time to spend in Staten Island. I've literally spent a day adventuring around this freaking borough. It's been so much fun. Even where I'm sitting right now is like, I don't even know where I am. It's like an abandoned beach. I crawled through a few fences and got here, and it's just been so freaking dope. Behind me as well, you can see our awesome backdrop. This is the Verrazano Bridge and the teensy-weensy little view of Manhattan. You can just see the financial district in the distance with the One World Trade Center sticking out on top. So it's a pretty dang good view. It's a good amount of time to spend here in Staten Island. I highly recommend. If there's one thing that's worth to come out here for, is the views. The views are incredible. In addition, I want to take some time to thank our sponsor today for the video, and our sponsor is... Today's sponsor for the video is Kyndley, an awesome backpack company based out of California that makes cooler backpacks. These backpacks are half backpack, half cooler, which is freaking amazing. It's so good for traveling. I'm really excited to show you guys this backpack, but let's jump back to the video for now. And now that we're back, we're gonna start listing off to you guys the places that you need to visit in Staten Island. I wanna remind you guys before we begin, the way that I usually do these guides is by breaking them down into sub-subjects. And so we'll start with locations and things that you have to see here in Staten Island. In addition to that, don't forget, I've been covering guides on the entirety of New York City, going to all the really notable, fun, and cool places that you need to check out on your visit here. So don't forget to check out those other videos. But let's begin with the locations of Staten Island. So if you're a tourist to New York City, you're really only gonna arrive to Staten Island from 2 different ways. One is through the Verrazano Bridge, that's right behind me, by driving across from Brooklyn, or by taking the free Staten Island ferry from the financial district in Manhattan. And that will bring you right over here, 25-minute ride. It's absolutely free. The ferry is actually really dope. There's a lot of cool things on it, like a cafe and nice windows, so you can get panoramic views, especially of the Statue of Liberty while you're passing by. And it's free, so you really can't beat that. There are other tours that can take you to Staten Island with different, more upgradable boats that look nicer, ships that have decks and stuff that you can get really awesome views. But for the purposes of it being free and budget friendly, the Staten Island ferry is fantastic, and it's free because it's offered by the city of New York. So when you do arrive, you're going to be arriving at the Staten Island ferry on the Staten Island side, which is going to bring you to like downtown Staten Island. This will be the St. George area of Staten Island. This is kind of the hustle and bustle of Staten Island. To be honest, Staten Island is a very residential area. There's not a lot here when it comes to city life. It is way more laid back, way more old and colonial and historic. But in addition to that, it's just a lot of nature and a lot of forestry with animals and wildlife. It's a very open area, very different than the rest of the city. It's nothing like Brooklyn, it's nothing like Queens, it's nothing like Manhattan, it's definitely nothing like the Bronx. It's really its own place. So if you're expecting like giant high-rises, you're not gonna find them here in Staten Island. But in downtown St. George, you'll have a lot of cool spots to check out. There's a place called the St. George Theater, which is really cool. It's a really old historic theater that's worth checking out, especially if you want to see some live shows. You have obviously the Staten Island Borough Hall, which will hit you smack dab right when you exit the Staten Island ferry port on Staten Island side. It's really cool. It's just a really awesome building, and it's really right in that downtown area, so there's tons of shops and restaurants and stuff to see in that area. There's a cool comic book store that I came across, as well as the National Lighthouse Museum. This place is really cool because, one, it's an awesome museum about lighthouses, which is always dope because everybody wants to learn a little bit something about lighthouses. But in addition to that, the area right behind it has ample seating for people to kind of chill out and relax, and a really, really nice viewpoint of the city. There's a little pier that stretches out that you can go chill and also see the Staten Island ferries coming and going, because it's literally right by the Staten Island ferry. So spend some time walking around in that area of downtown Staten Island. It's really the first area that you'll probably be in if you arrive via the Staten Island ferry. So just give that some time to walk around and enjoy. There's lots of places to sit down and relax. Remember, Staten Island is an island, so you're on island time when you come here, baby. But if you're not content with that laid back island life, I'm gonna recommend an area that's even cooler. So Staten Island is actually home to the only little Sri Lanka in New York City. Yeah, just like there's a little India and a little Manila, there's also a little Sri Lanka. And it's one street inside of Staten Island. So the street that you're gonna wanna get yourself on is Victory Boulevard, and you're gonna find yourself in the little Sri Lanka. You can start by hitting up the new Asha restaurant, which has food from all over kind of the South Asia continent area. Sri Lankan food, there's just tons of food for you to try out there. This whole area, it's literally concentrated like 5 or 6 different Sri Lankan restaurants and grocery stores all in that one area. But it is very cool that even on Staten Island, which feels so far away from the actual city, that it still upholds the values of New York City of being super diverse and having a bunch of people from a bunch of different places. So I really like that about the kind of Sri Lankan community here in Staten Island. It was very cool to kind of walk amongst them and explore that area today here in Staten Island. Oh my God. Oh my God. The ducks. Oh my God, the ducks. What did I do? That was crazy. Staten Island, baby. All right, so we're gonna jump from there to the Snug Harbor area. And oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, hands down, one of my favorite things I've seen in New York City so far. Snug Harbor is freaking awesome. So you're gonna wanna get yourself to the Snug Harbor Community Center. And in this area of Snug Harbor, there are tons of stuff to do. There's the Staten Island Museum, there's a botanical gardens, there's so many different things. There's a kids museum, there's just beautiful flowers all over the botanical gardens. They're growing in this gorgeous, gorgeous way. I'm here during springtime as well, so there was cherry blossom trees, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. But there was a place that really, really blew my mind and came to the top of the list here in New York City for me. It's the New York Chinese Scholars Garden within the Snug Harbor area. The entrance fee is $5, and you can pay at one of these old little renovated cottages. Anyways, you get yourself a ticket and you walk through this Chinese Scholars Garden, and it's just mind-blowing. There's this beautiful kind of Chinese architecture with a nice little pond in the middle, tons of koi fish swimming around in the middle of it. I really enjoyed every single moment just wandering around, kind of getting lost in there. It's quite big too. You can spend maybe 35 to 45 minutes exploring it, though. Even the guide told me there that it takes about 25 minutes to do. I don't think it's possible to just spend 25 minutes, so you're gonna really want to take your time and enjoy the views. They're cool little buildings for you to sit inside and chill, and I cannot recommend enough. For $5, it is an absolute steal. So make sure you're going to Snug Harbor and checking out the Chinese Scholars Garden. Alrighty, from there we're going to jump down to the historic Richmond town. And what is historic Richmond town, you may ask? Well, like I mentioned before, Staten Island has a lot of history to it. It's very old, and a lot of communities that have been set up here are from a very, very long time ago. And so all the buildings in historic Richmond town are from like pre-colonial times or colonial times here in the United States. A lot of them are very, very old, and they've stayed almost exactly the same with very little renovation. I have never seen something like this yet in the United States. It's really like taking a step back in time. The whole area is closed off, and they've really kept all the buildings very, very historic to colonial times. There's a tavern, an ice cream shop, a church, different saloons, grocery stores, buildings everywhere. They're so freaking cool. And tons of nature surrounded as well, because it's kind of in a more rural part of Staten Island. I saw some snapping turtles in this little pond and creek. I saw some deer. It was very cool to just be walking around in this area. So I highly recommend visiting historic Richmond town, because it's gonna take you through a look, especially if you're a tourist from outside of the United States, of what kind of pre-America, pre-United States times looked like here in the States. It's very, very, very cool. A real once-in-a-lifetime experience, in my opinion. All right, so the next one is very close to historic Richmond town. It's a walk, but I'm gonna need some help pronouncing it, so I'm gonna be looking at Google Maps while I do. It's the Jacques Marchias Museum of Tibetan Art. This place is beautiful. It's up on a hill. It doesn't really seem like anything when you first get there, but you walk through this narrow gate, and out you're gonna come out to like a balcony where you kind of get this elevated view of Staten Island in New York City, with tons of plants and shrubbery and Tibetan artifacts and beautiful, just beautiful art all throughout this outside area. Is a very relaxing and peaceful place to come. The people who are upholding this museum obviously care a lot about it, because it's really well taken care of and it looks very, very beautiful. So I highly suggest taking a little trip down. It's definitely more of a unique thing to do in Staten Island. All right, and lastly, we're gonna jump to actually where I am right now. So this area right behind me is called Fort Wadsworth. I don't recommend trying to find the area that I'm currently sitting in because I don't know if I'm really even supposed to be here. I kind of just kept walking blindly and I ended up here. But the fort behind me is mind-blowing. Oh my goodness, the view from up here. It's like, it reminds me of being on the Rock of Gibraltar. It's really incredible. It's a totally new experience for me in New York City. The thing about New York City is it's not too hilly, it's not too elevated, unless you get to kind of the northern parts of Manhattan and Bronx. But the view from up here, with the Verrazano Narrows Bridge in the background, is just amazing. You can actually walk through the sites of the fort itself, which is cool as well. You can walk through the down area of it, the below area. You kind of get the view of it, but there's actually this beautiful seating area on top with this nice little trail that brings you to an elevated platform where you can get really close to the bridge and you can see the whole fort from the top, and it looks amazing as well. It's kind of like overgrown and stuff, but cargo ships passing through and a beautiful, absolutely gorgeous view of the city. You can kind of get the Jersey City, Newark view and the downtown Manhattan financial district view, and you can even see the Empire State Building from the top of this. So it's just, I highly suggest and recommend coming up to this area. If you have to do one thing, in Staten Island, I would really suggest coming down here. It's very close also to where you would get off on the Staten Island ferry. It's probably only a 25-minute bus ride or maybe a 10-minute car ride. So I really highly suggest coming here first. Prioritize this area of Staten Island for your visit because it's gorgeous, the views are great, the pictures will be wonderful, and it's just an incredible place to be. I highly recommend it. And that, my friends, will cover all the locations that I think you should visit, everything you need to know about Staten Island. Here's the deal. Staten Island's huge. I'm definitely not going to be able to cover everything, but I think if you're coming as a tourist and you want to kind of squeeze in Staten Island as a place that you should visit, I don't want to overwhelm you with locations because there are other things that you could do here in Staten Island, but I think this is a nice spread for you so you can kind of pick and choose the different places that you'd want to visit here in Staten Island. That being said, that we've covered all the locations, it is time to move on to our next sub-subject. But before we jump off to our next sub-subject, I want to thank our sponsor for today's video, who is helping us make the Staten Island guide possible by jumping over to Editor Tall. Well, hello ladies and gentlemen. It's time for to show you guys the sponsored part of this video. Today, the video is sponsored by an awesome backpack company called Kyndley. Kyndley is being cool enough to sponsor today's video, and I'm so happy about that because this backpack is genuinely amazing. I'm currently out in the forests of New Hampshire near Mount Washington, and this backpack has been on my back for the last 3 or 4 days just hiking through the northeast of the United States. I have to say, besides the cool features that are in this backpack, which include an awesome top pocket with plenty of space for all kinds of devices, I've been keeping little camera batteries and stuff in there, as well as an awesome bottom pocket, which I've been storing things like my sunglasses, top pocket that has plenty of space for all kinds of things. I've been storing stuff like my drone in here. I've been enjoying just putting this thing on my back and strapping in with the provided straps. And I have to say, these waist straps are some of my favorite waist straps I've had on a backpack yet. I know I might look a little goofy, but it is super comfortable, especially for hiking out here in the wilderness. But I know what you guys came here for. There's a cooler in this backpack, which is amazing. So we can pop my water bottle out because we'll use that for a second, but so what you can do here is actually unzip this handy dandy little zipper area, and this backpack opens up into a full cooler. I should mention, it's a collapsible cooler as well. It is completely leak proof, so if anything melts in here, or if there's any water that spills in here or something like that, it's not going to drip into the rest of your backpack. Let's say I want to keep something cold, just as example, I have my water bottle, and I want to keep it a little cooler. Just close that sucker in there, because it's hot out here. I'm hiking in the forest, it gets warm. This thing's gonna keep my water nice and cool. I'm a huge fan of this Kyndley backpack, and I'm so excited to do some more traveling with it. So please make sure that if you want to pick yourself up a Kyndley backpack, you check them out in the links in the description below. You can get them on their website or on Amazon.com. And they're super awesome. Look how cool they are for sponsoring today's video. I freaking love you, Kyndley. You're the greatest. So thank you again so much for Kyndley for sponsoring this video. I'm gonna head back on my hike. See you guys later. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, our next sub-subject is going to be transportation here in Staten Island. How you gonna get around, boo? So how are you gonna get around in Staten Island? Well, like I've mentioned before, there's a Staten Island ferry, which is super awesome, super convenient. This will be a free way for you to get to Staten Island if you want to get over here. You just take it from the financial district in Manhattan. It leaves every 25 minutes or so. Actually, today I think it was running even more frequently than that. It was like every 13 or 15 minutes. So If you catch it on the good side, you catch it on the good side, baby. Take the Staten Island ferry, it's free. I highly suggest that. But as well, you can take a car ride over the Verrazano Narrows Bridge and get over here to this part of Staten Island. You could also do this via Uber or Lyft if you're Ubering and Lyft. Don't forget, I have my codes in the description that can help you get some free money on Uber and Lyft. As well, once you arrive on Staten Island, buses are really the main means of transportation. There's no subways out here that you can take. You can still use your handy dandy New York City Metro card. It still works right here, even if you get the unlimited pass, no matter what, it still counts here. But if not, a bus ride is going to be $2.75 a pop one way. So the buses really connect the island very well. There's a lot of routes, especially in this area that's more populated and more touristy friendly. There's lots of buses that you could take to the different areas of Staten Island. So don't worry, you won't be missing out on anything by taking a bus. You should definitely consider taking a bus, especially if you want to keep it on the cheap side. In addition to that, like I mentioned, you can Uber and Lyft around the island pretty easily, especially in the touristy areas. The rides really weren't costing me more than like 5 to 10, maybe 15 bucks at the maximum to get to certain areas. I did Uber and Lyft through the areas that were a little longer just for convenience sake, because I wanted to get some shots done faster. Other than that, walking is going to be very difficult unless you're in the kind of main center in the downtown part of Staten Island. Everything's really far away from each other, so it's just going to take too much time, but you can do it if you want. As well, there are Lime bikes all over Staten Island, so if you want to rent a little Lime bike, you can do those as well. Next sub-subject is going to be food on Staten Island. To keep this very brief, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think, from all the knowledge that I've gathered, Staten Island is really known for food, so I don't even know if I'm going to suggest a lot of food places for you. I came and ate some sushi when I was here. If you're coming to Staten Island and you want to get some sushi, Sushi Wen is great. It was actually really cheap for lunch. I got like 3 or 4 rolls for like 12 bucks, which is unheard of anywhere on planet Earth. It was really delicious. As well, should be mentioned that Staten Island Sri Lankan community, Sri Lankan food, I heard it's really good. Unfortunately, I'm here on a Tuesday, so most of the Sri Lankan restaurants were also closed, so that's a little bit unfortunate. Sri Lankan food, if you're coming to Staten Island, it's probably your best bet. You're gonna wanna try some Sri Lankan food in the little Sri Lanka. Let's move on to our next sub-subject. Okay, let's talk about accommodation. As for accommodation, when it comes to Staten Island, there are hotels and motels and places for you to stay. I don't think there's a single hostel on the island, so if you're looking for that budget-friendly stuff, I'm not sure if you're gonna be able to find it. Staten Island is a place that you might want to spend like a day or two and take a step back, especially if you're in New York City for a prolonged period of time. So I don't know if you're really gonna wanna come and rush and get all the stuff you wanna see done in like one day, so it might be worth it to come stay here for a day or two. And my biggest suggestion for you is to stay in an Airbnb when you're here. Regardless, Airbnbs in New York are pretty affordable and really nice in a lot of different places, but here on Staten Island, I highly suggest using Airbnb. So please, 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 if you're watching this video and you wanna get an Airbnb, get your first Airbnb $40 off. You're gonna get $40 off your first stay by using my code in the description. Look for it in there. Use my code, get yourself $40 off on your first Airbnb, especially if you're coming to stay here in Staten Island. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, that should be the end of your Staten Island Everything You Need to Know guide. Once again, this borough's a little strange, it's a little weird, it's very different than all the other boroughs. So, Staten Island, give it a visit, ladies and gentlemen. And don't forget to watch the other videos that I've done here in New York City. I've literally covered all 5 boroughs, like 30 plus neighborhoods of this city. You're not gonna wanna miss it, so make sure you're doing that as well. If you want to support this channel, you can by buying some merchandise. It'll be down in the description below or on screen right now, but look at that, it's got Dodo Bird on it. It's pretty dope. If you wanna support my channel, merchandise is way. I also have a Patreon though, and by clicking any of those links like Uber, Lyft, or Airbnb, you'll be giving me a lot of support, ladies and gentlemen. I also want to say a huge thank you to today's sponsor for the video. And that's going to be all for me, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you enjoyed this guide on Staten Island. I hope you enjoy your time here. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Hopefully somebody friendly in the comments will help you out by answering your question, or I might be able to answer it myself. And I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you long time. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. Woo!